Welcome. We got the qualifying games, not for Madrid, but for the qualifying games for Madrid. The top half of the playoff games, who's going to be the first seed, going straight to those single elimination best of threes on whether they make Madrid or not. FPX Trace. This is FPX's map pick. Trace have chose to be on the defense. I guess like comp-wise, we've seen this before already for FPX. It's definitely a little bit spicy. But it worked pretty well against Nova the other day. YOU's taken a lot of damage already. Trace have chosen to attack first. Map veto is Sunset, Bind, and Lotus. And somehow Fungus managed to walk right up onto Lysol. It's going to buy like some time onto Boba. Play rotation for life, but the tricky part now, I suppose, I think he's been talking about this a lot, like the post plants are really hard to hold on attack, especially when the controller's still alive. But the controller is a harbor. They got with the Phoenix Flash, but the fight's still kind of coming out on top for Trace. 4 versus 2. And actually, nearly a flawless, honestly. You only lose Fung. This isn't Sideshow Kappa. No, not quite. My mustache isn't as good. How does it feel to be de facto English commentator for the China games? Yeah, try not to cast them as much, because the problem is if I try and cast it, I'm basically saying to like, right, hey, I'm willing to do this stuff for free instead of like being part of the broadcast and stuff, which is like undercutting everybody. So I'm trying to like just watch party and just talk it through, which is still casting. What's the difference between a watch party and a cast? I don't know, it's probably just like the interactive nature of being like talking to chat, I suppose. Glad to see somebody cover the region now. I mean, it is a good region. Is it up to par with the other ones yet? No, probably not. I am also just rambling because we're on a full eco here. Feels like FPX, no, especially with the risk of the Outlaw now. Full ecoing is probably the way to go. You could buy up Sheriffs, but that would mean half armor for round 3 against this bonus. Which obviously, if Trace pick up an Outlaw, they could just absolutely mincemeat. So FPX are keeping this as clean as they possibly can. And why are you just shocked out in? Flawless 2, so there's only one kill that's come in from FPX thus far. I guess for Trace, roles are a little bit different, I suppose, for both these teams. YOU is typically the Sentinel player. He's over on the Sova. Fung is the Sova player. He's over on the Raze. He's on the Duelist. Kai's usually the Jet, he's on the Cypher. So they flex in the Heybei that start the same, but these three have like switched roles. And even then, a couple of half armor purchases. A couple of buy-ups on rifles actually from Trace. The pistol and anti-eco has been that clean that they could afford to pick up 2 big rifles of a Phantom and a Vandal and still have plenty of cash for a full buy next if they lose it. Thing always played Raze at Sunset. We've seen it at Evo. Yeah, true. But this isn't like new for Trace. It's just what Trace has always done. But if you're like new to China, these kind of like role changes are pretty common. Defenders cascade and push up and actually get 2. FPX have like cleared this pretty well. You got the Viper wall as well as going across mid with a trademark here. And Harbor wall just to add a bit more resistance over. Great spot for the Sova to be in, pretty much the typical default up until that happens. And this is, I was talking to Stu about this yesterday, actually, about JDG. They had a trip here on the Cypher because how scary this is to sort of be pushed. Right now, Trace have pulled this back into a 2 versus 2. This was a 5 versus 3 in favor for FPX, and they had the better guns. But now it's 2 rifles versus 2 rifles, and Berlin is pretty low HP. Both defenders as well, coming from different positions on the map. Looking at Ali, actually going to push upper, which takes Lysol completely by surprise. And now Berlin, really low HP. Really low cash all throughout FPX here. And a really nice win of a bonus, but you got to look at FPX a little bit there and be like, you kind of let that slip out your hands. You find the first kill. This is very common for Berlin to do. But Life and Autumn kind of just been caught napping. I think this becomes a really contentious area, I suppose, especially when you've got defender Silver playing in here. You play from here because you could do a really good Aldrun that hits the top of this box, hits the roof and gets all the CT. But the problem is if you're behind this box, you can get pushed on. Full eco again, near enough from FPX. You've got a Bulldog and a Marshall. And you've already lost 1 play with Lysol. Backside just not being fought for at all for Trace. They don't need to overextend. I mean, they're clearing all of the kills that they need towards market, people pushing out. So you only lose 1 player in the end. So the money is starting to build up really nicely from Trace. Just because I've not done it as well, set the stakes. This is who's going to qualify for the top 4 spots, and then if you win that best of 3, you go to Madrid. And both of these teams, I would say that the favorite still is FPX. In my tier list, I put FPX in the S tier. Let's just do it here. I put them in the S tier alongside EDG and JDG. And for Trace, I put them in the A tier. Which, looking back, I think I underrated Trace just a little bit. But I think it's more Trace made no roster moves. Trace had a really good year last year for Evolution. We have a timeout, so we can probably show you. Also, last times that these 2 teams faced was in Act 3, which was mid-November. Lotus, Sunset were the maps. Trace won on Sunset last time. The Sunset in here as well. FPX won the first. More interesting comps here with the Gecko. But they did run this before, this was the FPX comp, it's just Life playing on that role, and then kind of changed some things around with no duelist. But this is pretty much what they played beforehand. So this is actually a really close game. This is maybe top 3 teams in the region, 2nd and 3rd perhaps. Depends on where JDG sort of land, or even if Tech and Wolves can push later on today. But these teams have played each other a fair bit in the last year. And most recently, FPX came out on top, that's why I rated them higher. But Trace made no roster moves. FPX brought in Life from Attacking Soul. It dropped TCH, who we're going to see later on today, actually, for Dragon Range Gaming. Anyway, Reckoning and Rolling Thunder is going to be used, and this is looking like a cleaner retake after the timeout. Hit the defuse. You know it's a fake because it's the Phoenix running in. Even Kai on the late lurk is cleared out and spotted. And this is looking to be a much better round from FPX by a pretty large margin. Trade comes in onto Fung Fung. 3 players alive from FPX. I thought the breach name was Baby Bay. Yeah, it's Hey Bay. It used to be, at least it was spelled different. It was spelled like this, which I was calling him High B. So I think that's probably why he changed it to be more phonetic, because maybe he's thinking if I qualify for international events, all of the English speakers are going to pronounce it wrong, like this RyanCentral. This map is to FPX, the next Trace. Do you think it's a significant upgrade to TCH? Hard to say. TCH was way too wild on the Viper, like some of the stuff he was cooking up. Well, main controller for DRG looked really good. Okay. Sorry, Yang. Just get fucked, honestly. Sometimes that just happens, you know? He misses the recon and then just absolutely dumbs him through the smoke. However, well, life now with the operator, probably just worth saving. But like, money is still tight despite all of this, and like 4.7, 3.1. This will be going up to like 7.7, 6k, 6k, 4.5k. And now life. I think he's trying to hold, but he's going to get pushed from this on CT. And a lot of damage has been done. He has to put a trap behind him. He's been pushed. Like, this is great from Trace. Notice the operator. He's about to walk into it. Oh, and it gets one more, but it doesn't matter for Trace. Fung getting the kill there is massive. FPX picking Sunset is a bit of an odd decision given Trace's history on it. Yeah, I agree. I just don't know what the general consensus is going to like, because Lotus is the second map, which is a weird map for Trace to be picking because of the history that FPX has on it. Well, no, sorry, Lotus is the third map, so both teams have kind of like left it as a pseudo pick. It's Bind that's next. Sorry, I just for a second thought it was going to be Lotus as a second map, because if we're talking about like general history of what these teams like to play, yeah, you're right. Fung is him this map. Fung is like a really good duelist. Like, I'm actually a really big fan of the Sova, like, Raze players' role on this, like, in China. Okay, okay, life. Maybe I got a bit ahead of myself, but it was looking good. Tour de Force used as well. I wonder how many people are watching the Chinese stream. You mean like English speakers I don't realize? But there's like watch parties and stuff. Also, I'm going to repeat this pretty much throughout kickoff. If you are going to watch the China streams, don't watch them on Twitch because they're scaled down resolution to 720p, so the quality's not as good. Instead, watch them on YouTube. That's what I'm doing. The YouTube channel is just tributes to CN. And I got a lot of good content with subtitles. So all of the YouTube content for China has English subtitles. It's a shame it doesn't on the broadcast. Have I missed any China BCT madness yet? Today, not so far. It's actually been like a really good start from Trace. I'm not really like watching too closely. But FPX have used the Eldron, used it from the other side just because I guess like with the breach stun, like breach aftershock stuff, have to maybe not do it from the really good spot to Eldron from. A lot of teams I think have been really like tentative on how they fight for this, but also like the Phoenix fight for CT. This seems to be like the new like meta area to fight on the map. So having a Phoenix around this box to like flash, blaze wall, support a player that might be on this box watching for short. Pretty good. Is there any actual follow-up here? No, everybody else is kind of looped up to this point. Smoke comes in for a link. And Autumn is done well to just hold the top of CT. And why are you in a 1v3? Really good round from Autumn. Really good control on CT. I'm not really sure, like, as much as I like seeing more chamber, I don't know, and this is like a comp that FPX ran even before life was added, I still don't really like the chamber on this map as such.
这个就是对于 TE 来说已经有点没有办法了。他们在前期等了半天，对面没有选择压出来，他们只能够自己去往纵深走。但是你走去对面的一个
Like, I'm not wrong in thinking that we haven't really seen them, you know, get a kill and TP out.
6比2。现在终极技能方面 ，TE 其实
fighting for A main against this kind of
而且
just
峰峰只差一个点了，而 Life
utility is
所以
tough.
他选择顶了一个比较靠前的位置。
Like, even if he teleports to here, you can like stun, do all sorts of stuff. Cyber K just put up. Okay, doesn't get the kill, gets a bit of damage in, TP's out. And a couple of low plays from Trace. And also, like, you have to do this Viper Wall because you don't have an Omen to smoke this.
无人机过来先搜一下管道，他看到了大致这个技能的点位。
So you can't really do like any towards B or the ones
进攻要怎么打呢？峰
for
峰的血量
say.
有点低，他如果是装载晚夜火进去的话，有可能会被摘。是的。
Aldrin is good to check towards Ali, and Trace has just been waiting in A main. Obviously, solo initiator. The only way to get information is really through that character. Autumn's going to check and fight mid. Has run it back. A couple of ultimates nearby. Showstopper's one of the big ones that Trace has, and Life at least gets a trade on his teammate. He's hit by the paranoia. Doesn't have a TP that's really going to get him to safety. But he's able to get 2 before he's traded out. Neuro Theft is going to be used. And look how far away Lysor is. Because you don't have the Cypher or any trips or any cameras, so late rotate. Trace now know this. And there is a Hunter's Fury for YOU to basically shut down this round if it's needed, but I don't think it is. Recon Dart, 6 seconds. Shock Dart, pretty much ready to go. Good stun, actually. YOU, good peek. Lysol saving. We've already seen one timeout from FPX. Do you call your second and final one this half or not? He's 0 and 7. But, like, frankly, he's not had anything to do, it feels like. Is it pretty much that, like, when it's a anti-eco, Trace go B, otherwise they go A?
刘一手几乎就要被迫每个回合都要去打回防。他 B 点的话，其实想要去抢手也很难，因为对手有雷兹，他的一个惊喜翻腾的机动性太强了，导致他在。
Util is so good. I mean, Trace made no roster changes. They got better and better and better. Maybe he didn't finish as high as you would want from the last evolution stage. And FPX had a bit of a good run of form then. Yeah, for Sunset, I think this map result has mostly gone the way of Trace. Lysol gets his first kill at least, but the Hunter's Fury gets used. And actually, when it comes to this B stuff, the fight for B main has been a little bit better. Also, I feel like I'm still sort of waking up still.
剩下双先锋技能是很多，但没有人能够协同自己啊，只能自己去打个人能力了。小蛇 pick 出来已经被 Life 发现了，不要有倒地。那最后黑背的位置是明牌，多人的一波直架，阿阳也是完成了收尾。这一分是属于 FunPlus， 他们知道。
What made you want to cover China? The off season was really boring. I didn't get much casting work for EMEA last year, and I was just kind of in a bit of a panic about this year because kind of what I was worried about has happened, where I just didn't get any casting work for EMEA. But they just acknowledge me, but that's another thing. And yeah, I'd wake up early because my girlfriend started work, so I like 6 AM starts and China was usually on. Watched it, saw that like people like Sliggy, Sideshow, Thinking Men's Valorant would often like watch party the finals or the last parts of the tournament when EDG were playing, but they weren't watching anything else. And I was like, well, China's going to be in the league next year. There's probably maybe even an English broadcast, but there's a whole region of players and they're very quickly getting good at the game, so it'd be cool to watch and see what they do. Feels like Life has finally got that going for him. Skyflash holds the line to try and just get the spray on the timing, and he's done well there against Hebei. I do think that Hebei is kind of sunk cost fallacy. And finally, we get to see Life make that chamber work. Granted, it was Trace like 1v3ing, just one at a time, pushing and fighting. Like Life just baiting out the fights, and that's kind of what he wants. This is a good first kill, good TP away. I like the Chad energy to go fight for this, but why is nobody with Hebei to fight him? Flexing again, wants to make the best of a bad situation, tries to paranoia, misses, and actually forces out a Trace timeout. And one thing I said in like my video with Trace is this is it's called Destroyer, but I think he needs to be called the Destroyer because he's actually one of the best coaches I've seen in regards to timeouts. Like he's the kind of guy like Eng. Like Eng is really good timeouts, so at least he had them for Gambit. Like he's not afraid to do them early. He's not afraid to do them after his team wins a round. He's not afraid to do them even when his team like has a pretty comfortable lead. Like he could have easily just held both of his timeouts for the second half and either accepted a 7-5 win, but instead he's like, we're gonna make this 8-4. Timeout with 1 round left in half is a bit odd though. It is unorthodox, but if there's anybody that I trust to make it work, it's Destroyer. And that's one thing, like with Odd One Out, because I did some coaching, I was terrified of like taking badly timed timeouts. So I literally looked at all sorts of different teams, so like timeout timing is something I care a lot about. Omen did go for the TP towards Boba, but he cancelled it. And Berlin fights for this, dies in the smoke. And this split is just, there's no control for it at all. Like, this is what I mean, like this has just been a good call of like, you go for B, if you go for a B split, if you control mid, they don't have trips, they don't have any information, they're just fighting for B main a lot with the Viper and the Harbor. 3 versus 2, Rolling Thunder's going to go onto the back of site. Fung taking that fight onto Life is a little bit scary. Oh, and Hebei, he thinks that he gets the flank. That's a full flash on towards him. I thought that that was Trace's to win, but that is actually a great showing of why Phoenix on this map is pretty good from Autumn. Like, the flashes were good, the way that he took fight, the way that he, like, expected to flank around as well. From headshot. And that was 5 versus 3 lost for Trace. A couple of those the last couple of days. But post plants on B seem to just be a nightmare. Is he translating or casting? I don't speak a lick of Mandarin. I could say ni hao, zai zhen, and I used to be able to count to 10, but not anymore. Optimus Chinese, he's OCE, Australia, New Zealand, but like I think he like studied in China, so he speaks good like Mandarin. How big is VCT in China itself? It's getting there. But damn, you found a loophole. Love to see this. I wouldn't say it's a loophole. I know what you mean though. Like it's a nice little niche that I've like carved for myself. But what makes it better is like I'm genuinely like interested. Like watching Evolution. The way I keep describing it is like it was like waking up, like doing a bit of exercise, going to the gym, coming back, having some cereal and watching my Sunday morning like cartoons, which were these fucking teams doing crazy comps like
现在
this.
手枪局对于 FunPlus 来说，就特别是来到下半场
200k
嘛
viewers on their
FunPlus 将会
platform.
进入
Is
到
that
一个
heat
比较自己擅
though,
长和舒
or
服的
is
状
that
态
like
FunPlus 喜
concurrent
欢什么？就
viewers?
是他们喜欢在前期去利用这个控图的能力，然后去控制地图上的一些资源。
Low represented nation should be exempt from foreign limit rule. You mean like imports? I don't think that you could say ever in any game that China is a low represented nation.
我觉得需要注意的一个非常严重的点就是时间的把控，一定要做好。
是的。
Like, there's a lot of hype around it. I mean, for casters in China, they had like it was like the X factor for casters to get them on board, right? Like there was this whole process in order to like get casters in and like audition them and train them and stuff. I'd actually be really curious to talk to like Alan. Like Alan's like one of the main casters in China, but I knew him from when we both did like Overwatch for Contenders. Because he was like our like contact guy, I suppose.
你能看到小开在市场的位置是给到了一个单向烟。
But like that sounds brutal.
好像没看到，没看到 life。
All right, FPX are on the attack. They tried to go for the play that I was talking about. Tried to bully the Sova up towards. Where would you call this? Like it's just outside of Boba.
是先往 B 点去撤，但是踩雷飞剑直接飞了
And
过来。
Feng from downtown hits it with a nade. Flex is just, I guess, check and see if there's anybody else there because he genuinely doesn't know. And that has opened up the full A site. Viper Wall isn't here to help necessarily, but you have got lurks upon lurks. Autumn walking through his own spawn right now, which is lucky because he's got these two players pushing him here. Lysol and Ayang walking their way onto the A site. Really is just see if we can like flank around, take control. Life is down, so this trademark. No bueno.
下棒的气的时间就行了，
是
去打回防，尽可能不要形成1打1。
我们可以稍微注意一下，就黑贝手上是有2颗闪的，有
And
闪
a
有
fun
闪
on
地他的
default.
控制技能非常多
满的，
对，包括福乐星也有暗眼。现在 FunPlus 安置完爆能器之后，他们要去考虑怎么去规避对手的控制技能。
你看他们的现在目前的位置的话是凉凉的一个站位，先把这个 A 大的人反清下来。
Autumn at least watching the flank. He does have a molly, and they just line up perfectly. Could have been better timed. 3 versus 4 now for FPX. It's gone into their favor. Recon from Ayang was used. I didn't see where. Now Fugger's trying to walk out. Flexing just manages to wrap around. Time is getting pretty low. And now Autumn in a 1 versus 1. Fung is going to stick it. The molly does get it. Not only is that FPX winning the pistols, so it's 1 apiece, but also not too like what, 3 kills there, halfway to his ultimate already. So he's likely going to have it for the bonus. Yeah, no English broadcast for China. Is there going to be one in the future? Honestly, I think that depends on like you guys. I think the thing to do is like, obviously it's a little bit more complicated, but I think if people want that, like telling Riot, feeding that back to them. Because if people say nothing, right, be like, oh well, people don't care if it's an English broadcast or not, they'll watch it, and then there will be an English broadcast. I'd like to imagine that there would be, even if I'm not necessarily involved. I'd love there to be like an English broadcast, especially with so many people like in Overwatch. Lots of people kind of either announced their retirement or that they're not going to be part of like the new Overwatch esports system, and a lot of really talented people that it'd be nice for them to still keep living the dream. Lots of people I think could do a good job of it. And even those that are getting like tier 1 work, not getting enough to it to be sustainable, so. Autumn actually does have his ult now. So saving that for the bonus is going to be good. You've actually got Hebei going for a lurk in behind. So it gets onto Lysol. And the rest of the team has just pushed up and fought for CT a little bit. And Hebei, don't think he's picked up a gun.
打打对面的甲也行。
他应该想的是送包了，不太好去给这个技能。
This is good discipline now. Like Heibe's not trying to get exit frags as such. He's just in a position now where he could die to the spike and stop giving them ults, which I would assume is because he's like, we don't need to give them ults because, like, well, he's thinking, I don't want to give them an ult orb because it might give Autumn his ultimate. Problem, however, is that Autumn already has his ultimate. But, like, you don't want to have them one step closer to a Reckoning, one step closer to a Hunter's Fury. Lysa was still alive, one step closer to a Viper's Pit. Is Heibe just Heibe? Yeah. It's just, I think, it's the same player, but I think he's just changed his name to be more phonetically close to how we want to pronounce him. Because I was saying Heibe, because it was Heibe, but I think it was meant to be pronounced Heibe. And maybe he's like, people are pronouncing it wrong, so I'm going to just spell it out. I really would have liked a Heibe versus Baby Bay game. It's pronounced Ayang. I think. I might be wrong. I tried to base off what the caster's saying, and it's like Ayang. Alright, so this is the anti-bonus for Trace. They get their first kill, but they get one traded, so it's a 5 versus 5. Run it back is the big ultimate that we've been highlighting. Whilst you might want to save it for like the full buy when you have a better gun, you can farm these up so quickly that just using them as much as possible is worthwhile. It is also pretty much why Trace are playing all the way back in like CT, giving us a lot of space. And clearing mid is good. They break the trademark, which is enough of a go signal, I think. There's to run it back. Waiting for the hardball, I think, to come online too, so the high tide was good to go. Camera right on the back of Boba. Life, like, huh? Where is it? Can't quite find it because it's just a Boba. But Ayang's got the flank. 3 versus 2. Bonus is looking to continue on. And the way that FPX just dealt with getting all 3 players to fight that one person instead of being isolated. Speaking of which, Kai hoping that people are peeking one at a time in a 1 versus 3. FPX actually playing really well together.
累积了起来，而且对于 TE 而言，他们经济将会进入到一个雪崩的状态。
没错，就是前压的一波1换1，其实对于防守方来说不是很赚啊。后续的一波绕后的点，我觉得这个闪。
I wonder if there's going to be any balance changes in the future. There's a destroy timeout again. Good time for it. Only problem is just like because of these like hot tempo timeouts that Destroyer uses, FPX still start to climb up towards 12. No chance for Trace at all. Attacking Soul Jersey. So that's going to be a lot of support towards Life, who used to be on Attacking Soul, and Life also used to be on EDG. Way back at like Masters, Champions actually, Istanbul. First time that we saw a Chinese team play at an international event, and Life was on that squad. It's on a different one now, but I imagine the goal is still the same. Try to get to Madrid. He was a sub. Oh no, actually he wasn't a sub. He was in the initial 5, but I think he got COVID or he just got ill. And Smoggy actually was the sub at that point. Trace having to full eco. Guns are online. Money is good. FPX thriving as much as they can.
而且他们这个搭配很合理，2个先锋带决斗。
是的。
哎，这个协同其实是非常不错的。
能控能拿信息。
而且他们感觉是想把 B 大控下来，让峰峰去吸个球。
This is like just a perfect line, hardball.
但柏林也是这么想的呀。 柏林也想去
他不
拿到一个技能
敢呀，
点数。
主要是柏林他后面是只有一个人，阿阳。
Actually, Trace just bullied off of
控制
this.
型的技能很难去抢这个点数。
对，那现在听到你需求，也能够猜到你 B 点应该是一个。
Like moments like this, even though it's an eco for Trace, is exactly why like this trip is starting to come in. Because doing this trip in mid just gets broken way too often, way too easy to break from anybody with various utility. But like this one sort of allows you to not need to worry about watching this side. You can play here, kind of where the Omen is now. You could obviously play on the box, watching between mid and short.
接住一个过路费。
是。
But naturally, if you use a trip here, it means that you don't have like kill trips on site, which is what the plan is to Trace this time.
能不能在过路费能够抽几枪？
对。
They do have to push through their own harbor wall.
也能抽，抽海盾。
And the Cove slowly eking through with all of the kill trips. It's worked out tremendously well. And then Life is just going to try and push mid. Gives them a gun upgrade, so it's a 4 versus 4. There is a reckoning if Berlin wants to use it, but because it's an anti-eco, probably wants to hold on to it the best he can. But saying that, Fung is actually thrown in the showstopper. Actually, he predicts that Ayang is going to push him from short. And unfortunately for the rest of Trace, everybody else from FPX closed it up pretty nicely.
他想要去把这一波局势打开破口，打开了，但是后续的话队友枪械太差了。
对，就他已经做完了他能做到的事情，其他只能交给队友了。但没办法，主要是都是正义的情况下，你的容错很低。
对。
That was a 2 versus 4.
好像是
The FPX managed to win.
给峰峰给打掉了。我看他头上是黑。
But like when one team has sheriffs and the other team has guns,
高风险高回报，现在是等于没有拿到。
I don't know what point it really gets to it where like the eco should maybe win out. If they're in a 5 versus 2 against guns.
那这一分 FunPlus 手里仍然有一个非常不错的底牌。
I mean that depends on like the actual stats and win rates of each of them.
他这个抱拳其实在前期控制 A 的。
But annoyingly, there's no API stats readily available to us from China, which is, as you can imagine, for me, really annoying. Because I like my stats. Be nice to see who's like winning out the pistols consistently, who's got the best anti-ecos, who's got the best ecos. But now Trace actually have like a full buy. Losing the showstopper is tough for Fung. But halfway to getting him rolling thunder on this Fury, like Kaisner theft is a big one. Got the camera on top of the palm tree. And actually a closer trip. This isn't the one that you have to peek into to break. Guess they were assuming that the Shock Dart was going to come in and clear it, which, yeah, Ayang has used all his utility. Flexin tries to clear mid on that leg from Life, who's got the attention of like 2 players right now. He's still aim dueling with them. And he's actually pretty much got both of them. YOU is like 70 HP now. And meanwhile, the rest of FPX is actually just holding on with really nice post plants. Great position for a Phoenix to be in, especially. YOU might want to consider saving, to be honest. Good from Autumn to just make sure that he's not going to get that kill and get out. More worthwhile for FPX than Trace. Trace can't stop FPX push onto B. He can't stop it whilst also like maintaining mid control.
感觉完全不一样了，因为所有的一些主动权都掌握在他们的手里，他们可以去主导这场比赛的一个节奏。所以可以看到FunPlus来的进攻方打的相对于防守要舒服很多。
I mean that's one of the things like because there's no Viper, that's something that at least is pretty good at holding it.
对。
But also, you're better off playing an initiator over here too if you don't. Hunter's Fury is going to be used. Still a buy here for Trace. Now Hunter's Fury is actually massive from YOU. One more player there, flexing, pushing mid, tries to peek it. Maybe just assuming that nobody would push tiles at that point. Aldron is going to be used. Is it going to spot the Cypher? Nope. The Kai is in a grand old spot, but alarm bells are going to be ringing. I saw 8 HP. Good angle to be fighting from. But Hebei doesn't need to do too much damage. The execute is good. Neural theft is going to be used. Everybody's on rifles. They know it's going to be a B execute. They've got the camera in a common spot, which you can see both B main and also market. I think they even checked the camera briefly to see the market was clear. All can run through it. Ultra running from market. You still have a trip, so you know that they've not really pushed this direction all that much. Stun in the choke. And just one player alive, which is Ayang. He has a Hunter's Fury and a Recon Dart, but he's not in the best position to be sort of fighting it. That cage actually was really good too. Stops any pulses of information getting out, but the Recon was broken anyway. And he just doesn't expect this. Great call from Hebei. Lovely idea to like, let's just stand in this corner and wait for them.
上一分在开始阶段、准备阶段刚说完，说这个防守前压感觉不太好打，但是这一分 T1的这个防守前压压 A 大是主要是 YOU 的狂烈之怒，收获了非常大的效果。是的。 其实我觉得日落之城这张地图就是得。I
think Hebei might be one of my favorite IGLs in China actually. I'd actually say behind Haodong from EDG, who play later today, by the way, so we get to see Kong Kong in action for the first time in 2024. In a few hours, mind. But regardless of where Trace finish, I think Hebei probably is the second best IGL in China, I'd say. His mid-round calls are always good. His like fragging is always superb. Even on agents like Break, his utility is great. Like if the year doesn't go well for JDG and you have money, because they don't really have a dedicated IGL, I think what you do is you throw the bag again, Hebei, and Trace. But it depends on how good his English is.
Life 这个位置是有一颗半线了，但是他是静摸，是能打。这 timing，
福乐星选择主动出烟，
是的，
这个对于 Life 来说有点意想不到啊。福乐星就是这样子的风格，中路。
There's that push into mid again, that catches Trace by surprise.
福乐星直接被打掉。3打3爆能器，留一手捡了起来，但留一手队友还比较远。
Has to pull a camera dart out. Breaks the camera as well. Nade is going to go into safe. It forces Lysol to peek across, and there's a bit of spamming. Really good clearance from Trace. And you still have this trip and shot that you have to deal with. Sort of like 15 seconds now. Rolling Thunder's even going to be used to stall a little bit more, and it allows nice, easy kills. I think a good round actually for Trace to just dedicate that ultimate to. Maybe there's a world, but Kai and Feng are just too clean with it.
来到后面压缩的时间只有10几秒的情况下，对手还有一个惊雷卷地，这个时间只要拖就可以了。
Trace looking a lot better since their timeout.
他听到了这个半线的声音，想要去打的一瞬间，然后福乐星拉出来了。
Although I don't really know, like, feels like just all of the players are a little bit more like aware and good to go.
他是非常喜欢去打一些让你意想不到的一些操作。
FPX now have a timeout. It's just going to work well for Trace as well. If there's anything else that Destroy wants to add after like his initial timeout.
我觉得他还是一个机动性非常强的烟味了。是。通常的话，如果玩得好的一个优米的话，你永远会去猜他到底在什么位置。
10比9的比分，那 FunPlus 把战术暂停叫完之后
，NA default, EU default, Pacific default, and now China default. I think that's kind of like expected though, right? I'd say that the lines are going to blur a little bit more between China and Pacific because from what I know, every China team that like, I know people from that I talk to, and I'm like, what are the Scrimbooks like for other Chinese teams? They're like, we don't practice them. We just practice Pacific.
终极技能方面，现在 FunPlus 需要去继续滚起雪球，他们这个阵容啊。
So that's why I feel that G's bind comp without the main controller, the Solo Viper. I feel my conspiracy theory is they played up against the Chinese team that were playing that and they played it well and they went, shit, let's do that. And it didn't work out the same. And they got all the heat for it. So there's some team in China that's like looking at people's reactions to the comp and they're like, oh wow. Guys, maybe we shouldn't play this anymore. Timeout from FPX. They're still in the lead, and it's a 4-by here. Feng trying to catch people out. Forces one of the Phoenix flashes in first, and even put the trademark and give up the space. Viper wall towards A should be like enough pressure to keep building upon. And they even used to run it back, pushing all the way to A link, flexing. Probably doesn't want to peek that just because of how low it was getting for Autumn, but I don't think he was really paying that much attention. Like, he would have heard the steps, but I don't know, maybe he thought he was going to drop out a little bit earlier. Oh, felt that he had to take the fight because otherwise he was just going to get wallbanged through this box. Either way, he looked flustered and took a duel that he probably didn't want to and lost it. So there's no smokes now, which means it's very good for FPX at his post plant. Abe just got to walk up into the cove in the Viper's pit. Yeah, gets one. He's still sticking around. Hunter's Fury's forced out early as well from FPX. This was something that they maybe wanted to hold for another 30 seconds to make sure that this post plant comes in. Abe's stunning across that main choke. The recon dart showing that nobody's close. Now Fung actually does sort of push right through into Lysor, and actually the Viper's pit is going to go down, and the defuse is going to come in. That's a really nice round from Trace, but I can't help but feel that FPX have blundered that. Like, the Viper's pit was a little bit late. That allowed some form of gap for Hebe to push in and get onto the harbor. 3 big ultimates used from FPX in this round, and they still lose it. I wonder why they used the Hunter's Fury so early. Now money is starting to really be on the fence now. Shrug that to see if they can break any utility like a trip. Nothing there. Showstopper's going to be used on the defense from Fung, and it doesn't quite hit. Sort of flipped around now that you've got the chamber pushed up past Fung, kind of losing where each other were. Waiyu gets stuck on his own, and like FPX have done crazy good to turn this one around, but it did just come into a bit of a bananas aim duel in A main. Good way for this first map to realistically go like 10-all. Both timeouts used, so it's a good like test of metal, I think, for both squads. Now, how are they going to do now that it's kind of left to their own volition? And yeah, questionable from Kai too. Nice to see that both teams are like feeling the stress of it a little bit. Like, questionable mistakes, but like at the same time, this very easily could have been like a qualifying game for Madrid. Did Life walk up mid there that round? This finds a load of space for free. Cypher utility over on A. Lots of pings from the attackers here. Anything to use ultimate-wise? No, not from the logs. And the buy from Trace is iffy. They have one rifle for it, it's just a buy next. YOU is a bookie, 4-player stack from B. Then I guess Kai from the save beforehand still has like full utility, but like, yeah, it's going to be a rough buy for him next round if FPX make it to 12. But he has to effectively 1 versus 5. He's fighting more for short. Trip is broken, but allows him a bit of a reaction to get out. No trip on site that he can maybe get a kill onto, so he's just having to spray. He just got that one from short where nobody else has really sort of bothered from. Done some damage to Autumn.
爆能器成功安置下来 ，Alton 稍微回复一下自己的状态。
Ball's just gonna go up to heal.
TE 来说，这个回防到底要怎么打？很尴尬的是 ，YLU 和福乐星是2把霰弹枪。
Ultimates? No, not really. From the shadows, but don't think that's really going to work too much.
来过到一个近点位置啊，这个
timing 直接抓到了，但做了一波1换1。
Autumn gets traded out by Hebei's Sheriff. It was a good stun that comes across the site too. I mean, a Bucky actually getting Berlin is kind of surprising. The life has actually cleared them all. All right, this is why FPX probably threw the bag at him to pick him up.
是的，这就是老职业选手啊，妥妥的枪男，在
incredibly clean life game.
你可以相信 Life 在关键时刻的得分能力。两边僵持的局面下，在关键时刻，其实这一分会有点危险的原因。
I mean, one thing I will say about like China as a region, like mechanics are there. They're not behind.
直接跳了单向烟出。 是完成了这波4杀，
因为他知道这一波必须要。
Oh, he's got a little like back cushion too. Oh.
会很难受。
12比10 ，FunPlus 来到了他们的盘点。
Little ergonomic boy.
2次可以终结掉图一的机会。
2 chances. Sorry, we got to do it.
防守的前压，现在对于 Life 来说已经是捕捉到了信息。
Trace had the lead for a bit.
贵宾现形，屁股后面是不用看的。前期FunPlus 还是保持自己的风格。
7-5 at the half.
防前压，看看
But it was very one-sided right at the start, wasn't it?
拿到了 A 区的话是一个雷。
Tricked out there. Break the trip that hasn't really been used from Trace. There's usually just the one right on the choke. Or ones like this where they're further back.
小开这个位置玩的也很灵性哦，他换防了。
It's just this trip is so consistently broken. Plays to try and get in. Kai just spraying. Oh, the paranoia is great from flexing. The recon too. A load of information, but some openings now for FPX to actually make their way in. Choke that is gonna clean. Nope, missed. Berlin has to walk up with the spike. Good fight, good hold from Trace. Nothing really used from FPX. I think they'll still have a buy here. Which region do you think has the worst mechanics? I don't know actually. Maybe Pacific.
可能也想到了，像零这个位置可能也在 A， 那想到 A 肯定是一个重防，所以选择来到了一波 B 区。那没有想到零这一分的话，回防来到 B 区了，换防了。
EMEA, in my opinion, depends how many Russians are on the team. Because there's always like cracked Russian players still that. I don't think it depends on the region, but it depends on the team. Too much of a sample size. Anyway, one chance. Trace might bring us to overtime. Tour de force is in use for life, so he has a shorty otherwise. One will orb away from the run it back, which is now available for Autumn. Hunter's Fury, not too far away from a reckoning, there's a chance. Hebei rolling thunder, there's definitely a chance.
架的这个小缝容错率会比较低哦。如果对手大拉的话，可能不太有机会。
他感觉就是在加 life， 因为 life 的孤高火力在进攻方就是要一点点推的。
对。
直接打。
Run it back, the trip is there in market. And its Fury's used a cross 2 from YOU to catch it, but now this is brave from flexing. Just pushes right into the choke. And now 4 versus 3, going for another B execute. There's still a lot of utility here from Kai. And he wants to go in, but I think him waiting is good. Clearing life is tricky though because of where he's walked up to. Reckoning is going to force this fight out early from Trace. And FPX have actually just owned it. Reckoning was massive actually. IGL 1 versus 4 that he has to do, rolling thunder to go across. Life is playing this so late on this lurk. They know that he's not on it. Here comes the twist of the knife. And FPX have actually done incredibly well. I think this is a map that is consistently went Trace's favor when they played beforehand. I think the last time that they played, FPX won it. And FPX is one of the reasons why I rated them higher than Trace initially, is because last time that they played, FPX beat Trace, eliminated Trace, I'm pretty sure as well, for top 4. Taking them to a map that Trace has typically been good on for a long period of time and managed to actually come out on top. Yeah, I love this Reckoning though, because while I use Force to peek on one side, Kai ends up peeking on the other. Just forces the defenders to do something before they're ready. FPX give me hope on their sunset from this performance. Yeah, and I think that they exploited a gap that the double initiator comp has without the Viper, and also not putting trips in certain positions. But yeah, first map done.